Yesterday morning on the show, we reported on the buses carrying nearly 150 migrants that arrived in Washington, D.C. on Christmas Eve, dropping them off in frigid temperatures near the home of Vice President Kamala Harris. Texas Governor Greg Abbott was behind that move. Axios this morning is detailing the efforts of one volunteer group who arrived to help the migrants. Claudia Tristan, the story reads, a volunteer with the Migrant Solidarity Mutual Aid Network, spent the wee hours of Sunday helping feed 140 migrants who were left by the roadside on Christmas Eve outside Vice President Kamala Harris's official residence. Tristan and other advocates said the three buses came from Texas within half an hour of the arrival of the first bus. The migrants were on their way to a church to be warmed up with coffee, tamales, beans, and rice, and rotisserie chicken. None of them knew where they were being dropped off, she told Axios. They have no idea they're part of this bigger political game. Joining us now is the woman quoted in the piece, the core volunteer organizer for the Migrant Solidarity Mutual Aid Network, Claudia Tristan. Claudia, good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Just take us back to those moments, please, and what some of these migrants were saying to you, and what sort of conditions did they face?
Sure. As many of us know, it was frigid that night. And once they got to our respite center, they were so incredibly thankful. And it was really alarming to see how they came in. Many were just wearing T-shirts. Some of them had blankets that you can see in some of the video, but those blankets were incredibly thin. Some people didn't even have shoes on, just double layers of thick socks that were donated to them at some point during their journey. So it was really quite alarming to see that political leaders have dumped them on the side of the road Christmas Eve in 18-degree weather, knowing that they're not dressed for this weather.
Claudia, God bless you. I'm sure you had plenty of things you would have liked to have done on Christmas Eve with your family and Christmas Day with your family, but you did such a good deed and reflected the best of America by helping those men and women and children. And could you tell us a bit about the children who were in the buses and the toddlers who on Christmas Eve, they weren't waiting on Santa Claus to come visit them. They were being transported by Greg Abbott to freezing Washington, D.C. outside the Vice President's residence.
And I really think that's the most painful thing to watch. The children that are being thrown into this game that our political leaders think is going to resolve anything. Those children are the most innocent among all of this. And to see these small kids show up to our respite center and they're, you know, a little confused at what's happening because at that point it's late at night, and they're just so thankful to receive a warm meal. You know, we knew it was Christmas Eve, so we were also playing some Christmas music in Spanish at our respite center, just to lighten up the mood in any way we can, because we know it is such a heavy moment to be in for those migrants. So we really wanted to be there as helpful as possible. You know, we had enough kids on these three buses that we had to set up an entire children area with games and a little, you know, rug so they could play. And that goes to show that we're more than ready to welcome these migrants, and it takes our whole coalition of volunteers, not just me. We're an entire group that has been working since April. Yes, it was Christmas Eve, and yes, it's shocking and horrible, but this is a regular occurrence, and the governor of Texas continues to drop them off at the vice president's house instead of working with us and dropping them off at our respite centers.
Mr. Stone, this is Eddie Glaude. Thank you so much for what you and your organization have been doing with regards to this issue. It's just over and over again an example of cruelty. Governor Abbott has shipped over 15,000 migrants to across the country, from New York to D.C. Do you think, let me ask it differently, how should he be held to account for the cruelty of this practice, if that makes any sense to you?
You know, I'll leave that to our political leaders who can make a decision on that. I just want him to remember that there are real human lives in the middle of all of this who are becoming victims of his stunts, which, like this weekend, there's children, not even 2 years old, toddlers, that are stuck in the middle of all of this.
All right. Well, core volunteer organizer for the Migrant Solidarity Mutual Aid Network, Claudia Tristan, thank you so much for joining us this morning.